In today's podcast episode, I am lucky enough to be joined by Farzad, who is, of course, a very valuable and prominent voice in the Tesla community. This conversation was really great. We spoke about everything from Farzad's recent entry into fatherhood to what nearly caused him to sell his Tesla stock in the past and what he thinks is coming next for Tesla, and so much more. There will be timestamps available, but without further ado, let's jump into the conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Hi, Farzad. Thank you for joining me on my podcast. It is, like I just said to you before we press record, an absolute honor. Really, thank you. I very much appreciate your time. Speaking about time, Farzad, just want to quickly congratulate you. You have recently become a father. Amazing. Yeah. Congratulations to you and your wife. How's it going?
Thank you. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Yeah, and thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, we were speaking a little bit before. I find Hayley to be one of the best channels out there in relation to Tesla, especially as of late. I discovered you, I think it was like 3 or 4 months ago or something like that. It's been a little bit. Amazing. And I've just kind of been watching your stuff, just kind of checking and see what you're doing. And yeah, I just really enjoy people. I really enjoy people that are smart and have a good foundation when it comes to the story. And I always like speaking with people with common interests. So it's my pleasure to be on your podcast. And yeah, I'm very excited to talk to you. And yeah, the baby is going great. The wife is doing phenomenal. We just had our 2-week checkup today. He's 2 weeks old today, Clive. And pediatrics said he's perfect. She used the word perfect.
I love
that. And I'm
that.
like, I agree. He is perfect.
Not biased, just yeah.
Yeah, not biased at all. No, impartial party. But no, thank you for asking. Yeah, everything's. I'm over the moon. I couldn't be happier. Yeah, this is like the best period of my life. I'm so blessed and lucky for sure.
No.
I feel very lucky.
I was so excited when I heard the news. I didn't even know you on a personal level, but I think it's just so exciting. And
thank you.
When you announced the name Clive, one of the most important people in my life is called Clive.
Mm-hmm. No way.
And yeah, it's my granddad. He's called Clive, and he is easily one of the most important people in my life. And he is the one person that got me interested in investing. So,
no way.
Yeah, the only person that I know firsthand, until obviously now that I'm interested, that invested and that spoke to me about finances, spoke to me about the importance of not just wasting your money, like growing up, all of these things. Yeah. And that led to me now being where I am, I think. So as soon as I heard the name, I was like, Farzad and your wife, you have picked a fantastic name.
That is awesome. That's what a small. I mean, it's crazy, to think that. So we picked Clive because when we're in Jamaica the one year, and this little baby boy came up to us, and he just kept coming up to us to say hi. And then my wife's like, "What's your name?" And he was like, "Clive." And she's like, "Oh my God, I love that name." And then, the whole time her dad's middle name is Clive, and we think her grandfather's name is also Clive. So they're from Guyana. Mm-hmm. My mom's family, which is so there's a lot of British influence in that area. And so Clive is like a word that has been thrown around that area, and that's how it sort of ended up with us a little bit. But we picked it because we just thought it was so cool and unique. And it's one of like those old-timey names that kind of went away. So we're bringing it back kind of thing. So, but hopefully it stays unique.
I think it will. I think it will. It's a good name. But just quickly on the fatherhood thing, how's it been? Like, tell me, and how's it been? Has it shifted how you're viewing the world?
It definitely has. That's a great question. Yeah, for me, it's like I'm becoming much sort of calculated in how I use my time, because it's like before Clive was here, I live again a very privileged life. I have a lot of time, or I had a lot of time. I have a little bit less time now. Had a lot of time, and so I was very like, I could spend whatever if I wanted to play video games, if I wanted to go travel, if I want to, spend time on X, just shit posting. Excuse my French. I don't know if I can curse on this channel. I'm sorry, but poop posting on X. I wasn't gonna like beat myself up over it because I'm like, I have the time. I've lived a very lucky life. But now that Clive's around, I'm like, okay, so like, do I really want to spend time doing this or that? And so it's really helped me focus a little bit more on what's important. So that's been one big shift, and it's really put into perspective like some of the things that content creation is very interesting because it's something that I've been taking quite seriously for the last year because I just find so much joy and passion in it. But it comes with hardships. It comes with, especially as you grow in size, you have more and more of a group of people that are just going out of their way to make your life miserable, let's say. And so now that portion of it's becoming more and more irrelevant. Not that I was paying too much attention to it before, but it really puts into perspective just how important Clive is and how important my wife is and my family and my friends versus some of the stuff that's out there in the world that maybe I spent a little bit too much time paying attention to or giving air to before. Then now it just naturally becomes just who cares, that's the kind of vibe. So it just really helps me focus a little bit more. And also a lot less sleep. That's another thing that's changed. Yes. A lot less sleep, but it's all worth it, man. It's all worth it. And it's such a beautiful thing. Do you have kids?
No, I would love a family one day, but no, not at the moment.
Highly recommend it.
It's one of my, I don't know how to say this, just I guess really shorthand. It's one of the main things that I want to achieve in life. So
I love that.
I absolutely want children. Yeah. But it's that newborn scrunch.
Yeah, I know, right?
It's like,
yeah, it's so cute. Yeah, when he's on my chest doing his little scrunch there, yeah, it's the best. And they tell me like that part of their life doesn't last very long. It's it's like a few weeks they're doing the little baby scrunch because it's like they're like scrunched up from the being inside and everything. But it's an amazing feeling. It's been awesome watching my wife sort of transition into being a mom and just like this incredible, powerful force that women have. I feel like specifically my wife that I had never seen before. And I'm like, man, she is a powerful, powerful person because the challenges that are part of, childbearing and being pregnant and then postpartum and everything, you have to take care of the baby and heal at the same time. Damn. It's like, I've heard stories, but seeing it in person, I just, she became like I see her in a different light. Like I already thought of her so incredibly highly. And now I'm like, yeah, you're the GOAT. You're the best. Yeah. You're the absolute best.
I've heard that a few times. A newfound respect, because for somebody to go through all of that and bear your child is incredible. Honestly, it really it's amazing. But yeah, really, really, really was happy to hear that everything went well and that you're now on a new journey. You're on a new journey.
I'm excited. Let's go.
I know you're ready. Talking about YouTube though, I've got a fun fact for you. Actually, I haven't told you this, but I actually viewed your channel before you had less than 1,000 subscribers.
No way.
I promise you. I remember vividly watching you. It was the video where you were speaking about working for Tesla and things that you had learned during that experience. I can't remember the title of the video or anything like that. But I remember seeing your subscriber count and it was below 1,000. And I thought there is no way this guy is staying on 1,000 for very long. And you know what? Pat myself on the back because I was spot on. I was spot on there.
Well done.
I know. I should have invested in your YouTube business from the off. But you share fantastic information. But one thing that I want to ask you, is there anything that you can tell us about yourself, about your interests, about anything to do with you that maybe no one knows? Because obviously you post a lot. You post a lot about Tesla. You post a lot just online. But is there anything that your audience perhaps just has no idea?
I mean, there's definitely... Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, one of the things that I try to do one of the things that I'm very mindful of when I do online stuff, let's say, is that my goal from the beginning was to be just authentic. I really I felt like I wanted people to connect with the real person. Like what you see is what you get, right? Yeah. And so I'm very rarely shy in sharing information or things that are that I feel like I want to share, or I feel like might give the audience a better idea of who I am, because that's my way of building trust with the audience. I think trust is an extremely important thing in content creation between the creator and the audience. And it's something that I take very, very seriously. I've posted about my music stuff before. I post myself playing guitar, but music is a really big part of my life. It really is. I spend a lot of time daydreaming about the opportunities that I could have had in becoming, like, let's say, in a band, in a traveling band and stuff. When I was a little bit younger, so in high school I played clarinet. And I played semi-professionally after I graduated high school out here in the States. So I was in a pit orchestra playing that, and I know how to play guitar, I know how to play piano, I know how to play saxophone, I know how to play multiple instruments, the drums and stuff. So it's a big part of my life, and so I have the guitars on my back wall here.
Yes,
That's not just for decoration. It's like it's very very near and dear to my heart. It really is. And so that's, I share a little bit of that online with me playing the guitar and sort of having those things on there, but it really is a huge part of my life. We always have music playing in the house, any sort of genre. I'm a huge metalhead, but I literally love anything. I even started liking country since I moved to Texas.
I love
I used
country
to hate country.
music.
Okay. Well, now we share that in common, because before I was like, ugh, but now I like it a little bit more. Yeah. But music's been a big part of my life. I don't really share much about, let's say my wife and I's relationship much.
There's got to be something that you keep for yourself.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, her and I have some incredible conversations, very philosophical and stuff. And, I have a very unique set of friends, and, I when I crack jokes on social media and stuff, I try to let a little bit of that come out.
Yeah.
But in person, in my close circles, I probably will get canceled 1,000 times over. So I try to keep that to myself. There's a lot of things, I think, but for me, it's like I do try my best to just allow myself to come through as much as I can, and yeah, so yeah.
I'm gonna challenge you, Farzad. There's got to be something that happens in Tesla's future that we can set as a milestone, and once they reach that milestone, you should absolutely produce a Tesla song, a song about Tesla.
You think so?
That would be sick. That would be amazing. You could. It would be unreal. Can you
All
sing,
right.
or is that not something?
I mean, not really. I mean, I can. No, not really. I would say no. I can.
I would love to say I'd help.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to hire somebody to do the singing part. Yeah, I'll be more than happy to produce like the guitar parts and maybe like lay down the tracks and stuff. But the singing should be done by somebody else. Can you sing?
Okay.
Maybe
No,
you should be the singer. Okay,
you do not want
that. We'll find someone.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Challenge accepted.
Okay. Yeah. We'll talk about this. We'll get this done. So, moving the gears now to Tesla and all things Tesla stock. Am I understanding correctly that you have been a Tesla investor? You've been holding Tesla stock for over a decade at this point. Would that be correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
December 2012 was the first time I purchased.
Okay,
Tesla
cool.
stock.
So over a decade, yeah. Do you remember what initially got you interested? Why did you invest in the first place? Because 12 years ago, Tesla was in a very different place than it is today. Like, loads of people could start investing today because of the excitement over Robotaxi, this, that, the other. But you, back 12 years ago, what triggered you?
Yeah, for me, it was the community, the investing community that was around the story was very unique at the time. Okay. And so what ended up happening was 2012, I would have been 3 years removed from graduating college. So I was, let's see, I was 20, I was born in 87. I can't even do math. So in 2012, I would have been 25 years old, let's say 25, 26 years old, whatever the math is. And I just graduated college 3 years ago. I was broke. I was $100,000 in debt. I had a job that was paying, I think, like 40 grand a year at the time. I was living with my parents. I had a bunch of student loan debt. And I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to make more money, because otherwise I'm just going to be living in a grind for the rest of my life, potentially. And it's going to be a slow go for me to get to where I want to go. And so I started looking into investing in stocks specifically. Yeah. And one of the things that I did with my math background and my stat background, I really leaned heavy into trying to analyze companies from a numbers perspective. From like, I really want to understand how a company, and I didn't know anything about like financial analysis at the time. I really didn't. I'm just trying to like use my common sense and a logical approach to pick a story that made sense. And then when I was looking around Tesla came up as a story where it had a very unique investor base around, especially in forums. So Tesla Motors Club forums, and the Tesla.com website also had a forum with investors on it as well. And as I was going through and I was looking at Apple, I was looking at 3D printer companies and stuff like that. And then I stumbled upon Tesla, and there was this community that just had an incredible amount of in-depth analysis into the company and why they would perform so well. And people like individuals like Dave Lee, James Stevenson, Emma Peppers, these were people that were part of those forums back in the day.
Back then.
And
that's cool.
Back then. It's crazy. And then Dave Lee, his handle, I believe, was Dave T. And he had these mega threads. He had these gigantic, like, I don't know, like 30-minute long read posts. And he used to post them like almost every week, going in depth into why Tesla is going to be profitable, why they are on track to achieve 500,000 units by 2020, why their leadership is very important in getting to that point, why the operational leverage is going to be the game changer, why them getting into autopilot and FSD and all that stuff is going to be a game changer and whatnot. And then that kind of got my interest heavy. And then when I started comparing that type of work that was around the story versus every other company that I was researching at the time, I'm like, okay, there's got to be something there. And then come 2013, once it had that first run up where they posted their first profitable quarter, and the stock, split adjusted, let's say backwards, went from $30 to $180 in the span of a few weeks. I'm like, okay, there's something here. There's something here. And then the rabbit hole began. And then it's like, okay, now learn more about the leader, learn more about the company, learn more about the industry, learn more about the movement, so on and so forth. And then I became very, very passionate about what the company was doing, because it aligned with, it was almost like a symbol of like a hopeful future. And I think that's one of the reasons why Tesla is so popular today as well. Still is, right? And I think that's a very important part of the thesis, because it really is one of those very few companies that has a very a huge scope when it comes to their mission that can get a lot of people excited. Not just a customer base, but an investor base, and also more importantly, an employee base that is fully bought into the mission, mainly because the person that has set that mission lives it, which is Elon Musk in this case, right? And so all of those variables just made me just so fascinated with the story, and ended up working with them in 2017 for 4.5 years, right? So, and full circle now, I can't seem to shed this.
No, you're not getting
Tesla
rid of them.
As much as I try, I just naturally just go back to the story, just because it's so interesting. And it's also like it has a little bit of like an underdog thing to it as well, which I really enjoy. The story gets a lot of doubters and haters. A lot of people think it's pie in the sky crazy. The leader is a lunatic psycho. The people that follow the story are cultist morons, right? So there's like a lot of like variables that go to it that just naturally interests me. I'm like, I love that kind of story, especially when there is a proven track record in the past with the same formula. And if you put that formula versus what everybody else is doing, and there's still this giant gap between what they're doing and everyone else is doing, it's like, okay, so as long as they keep doing that, it's just a matter of time. It's not that hard. I feel like the investing thesis is not, it doesn't seem to be that hard. It's just, it requires patience, and it requires separating signal from noise. And that's the difficult part. It's like, you don't know who to listen to a lot of times. And because it's such a unique and niche and difficult problem that they're solving for, the solutions they're going to come up with are going to be novel. They're not going to be like, oh, I have a way to figure out how to do this. Like, I have a way to analyze this because someone else has done it before. It's brand new. Even the dogs are going crazy about it.
They're excited. They agree.
So, yeah, that's a long answer to your question, but yeah.
Yeah. No, that makes complete sense, and it's interesting and exciting to hear that Dave Lee back in the day was posting all of that information about Tesla. I wasn't into Tesla back then, so I never got to see that. I've heard some things about the old forums since then. So yeah, good to hear. When you say a lot of people, it's a very bipolar company for sure.
Yeah.
The biggest argument against Tesla and being an investor into Tesla that I personally see, and I don't know if this is the same for you, But it tends to revolve around Elon directly and people
Mm-hmm.
having a problem with him. Like, he's not dedicated, he's not focused, all of this stuff. Or it's like you said, people not believing that the solutions that they're putting in front of people are possible. Like, there's
Right.
no way you can have a driverless car. Not a chance. And if there is, it's not going to be Tesla. These are the
Right.
sort of things that we hear. I actually I made a video today that will come out at some other point, but I was basically trying to react to this idea that Elon isn't committed, dedicated, focused. I don't know what you have to think about that, but I don't understand how people can sit and say that about him. How has a
Yeah.
company done what it's done under his leadership, plus everything else that he does, plus being a father, which you can speak for now that it's hard. How can someone that's not dedicated and not focused achieve things like that? That argument really winds me up because I just think it's so unfair. Like, he is clearly
Yeah.
one of the most dedicated men on this planet. Do you agree? You think so as well?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I 100% agree. So I have a theory as to why that sort of argument has taken more of a, let's say, it's becoming more prevalent as versus before. I still think that the, in the past, and this is, I agree with you 1,000%. And here's what I think happened. So before he bought Twitter, right?
Yes.
This same guy, correct me if I'm wrong, was the CEO of Tesla and was also the founder and owner of SpaceX. And he also had Boring Company, and he also had Neuralink. Okay. So it's like, no one really made that case before.
No, you're right. Yeah, you're
Nobody
right.
made that case before. It's just once this Twitter thing came on, everybody's like, oh, he's distracted now. And the reason why people are I think the reason why people feel that way is because now a lot of that sort of multi-priority style of leadership that Elon has had since through the beginning of time, it seems, now it's public with Twitter and X. Yeah. So that now every tweet he posts is not like, oh, Elon has a few minutes of just shit posting on the platform. It's like, oh, look at him being distracted from Tesla. Yeah. It's a very lazy way of looking at the company. And so my counterpoint to that, right? So here's my counterpoint to that when people say Elon's distracted. I'm like, okay, cool. How do you explain the Model 3 refresh? How do you explain the Cybertruck? How do you explain the reliability scores that Consumer Reports has put out there? How do you explain them dominating the charging infrastructure in the United States? How do you explain FSD V12 after Andrej Karpathy leaves, right? And you just keep going on and on and on and on. And these are things that happened after he bought X. Like, what are we saying here? So it's all emotional, in my opinion. I think it's emotional. I think Elon buying Twitter truly, and I didn't really buy this argument before, but I really do buy it now. And I think it's a small percentage of the population that is just very, very, they have an outsized megaphone because we live in the age of social media. Yeah. That purchase broke people's brains. It broke people's brains. I think some people have a very hard time understanding how he could post and have a social media company and still do stuff at Tesla, right? And it's like they're not objectively looking at the performance and the execution of the company. What they'll say is like, hey, look, their prices went down X amount since 2023. And I'm like, okay, how about everybody else? Have you looked at the latest data with the entire auto market and how every other automaker's prices is down as well? How about GM cutting their EV plans by 50%? How about Ford losing $1 billion in one? Right, it doesn't matter. Like, that doesn't matter, right? So the data backs up the opposite of what some of these folks are saying. Now, I'm not saying there's no legitimate concerns around the company. I think sort of like margins going down for the last year and a half is a legitimate short-term to medium-term concern for people that are, let's say, are investing during that time period, right? For like that time. But when I look at the company, I'm not looking at it through that lens. I'm looking at it through the lens that they have a guy at the helm that looks 5 to 10 years out. And then he's very good at building stuff now for that time.
All that time.
Exactly, right? And so that's how I view the company. And I think people that ignore that are very good at bringing up the short-term challenges that the company faces. But you could have done that at any time in the company's history. People could have done that in 2018 when they were ramping the Model 3. And if they didn't hit 5,000 cars per week, they would have gone bankrupt, which they wouldn't have. I think Elon would have been able to raise cash, if anything, because he can raise cash like like that.
Yeah, he's pretty good at that.
Exactly. So you could have done this at any time in the company's history, but it still comes down to Tesla's execution. But the interesting thing now is that Tesla's operating from a position of strength. They don't have the lack of cash on the cash balance on the balance sheet. They don't have negative cash flow. They don't have negative, they're not operating from a position of weakness. They're operating from a position of strength. And, I feel like that increases their chances of executing against long-term goals that require a lot of capital, like their AI endeavors, like their, bot, building out a robotaxi network. So we'll see.
Yeah. This article that I was reading that I just mentioned, in the article, it was basically saying that, Tesla have had, I think it used the years 2013 to 2023 or 2014 to 2023. Anyway, it was saying that during that time, Tesla stock has returned shareholders like 1,000%, whatever it was, pick a number, a good number.
Yeah.
But yet this year so far, the stock is down by 40% and all the growth is now over. And I just thought, how can you compare a 6-month time period of short-term volatility in a company like Tesla, who is doing some of the most innovative work, to a 9-year period of growth? It made no sense to me anyway.
The answer is simple.
Go on.
Clickbait.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is the answer. And yeah, put simply, always is. But speaking about, you just mentioned like the history of Tesla and stuff, and so much has changed since back in 2018, back in 2013, whenever. Do you remember any point in time during the time that you've been a shareholder that you had any doubts, that you were questioning whether this was a good place for your money? And if so, what was happening at the time?
The closest I ever came to potentially changing my investing thesis on the company was actually while I was working at the company, which is kind of wild.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. You need
and
to.
I'll tell you this story. Yeah. So this was during like the lunacy craziness of 2017, 2018. It was the pedo guy post, right?
Okay.
I don't know if you remember this, but Elon was building the thing for those kids that got stuck in the cave, and then there was this little So he was building this little chute that was going to help these kids that were stuck in the cave to escape, and then the one engineer that was working on there told Elon to stick it up his ass, and then Elon says you're a pedophile publicly, right?
Oh,
and yeah. Then you had the funding secure thing happen, and all of this stuff was happening among the midst of a 36% short of the float was short at the time. I think it was like a gigantic amount of short pressure there. A lot of rumors about the company's going bankrupt, right? So I'm like, and this is like what taught me how to like read signal from noise, because even working at the company, like you have to keep in mind that I'm 12 14-hour days, 6 to 7 days a week, not getting I'm getting less sleep now, but I wasn't getting that much sleep for the time. But I'm working as hard as I can. I'm at the company. I'm seeing great things happen. But every time I come home, texts from friends and family. Oh my God, are you sure you want to work there? Oh my God, your stock is going to go to zero. The CEO is crazy. What's going on? This is insane. The company's terrible. You're going to lose everything. All this works for nothing. Blah blah blah.
So my comments.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So you get all that, but then. And so, of course, like in your head, you're like, okay, am I crazy?
Am I the wrong one?
Something wrong with me?
Yeah.
Am I the wrong one? Right. And then I have to keep reminding myself every time I walk through those doors, I'm seeing orders going up. I'm seeing efficiency going up. I'm seeing a ballooning of the fleet. And I'm seeing more and more cars around my area. I'm like, okay, do I believe a media industrial complex, let's call it, that is very good at not reporting factual information, or do I believe what I see? And at that point, I'm like, okay, I should probably believe what I see. And so once they hit 5,000 cars per week, once they became profitable, once the Model Y launched and that became a gigantic hit, once the stock started moving in relation to all those achievements and the execution that the company had, I'm like, okay, I should probably trust my gut.
Yeah.
I should probably trust what I see a little bit more and not allow myself to be influenced by people or groups that are not as familiar with the story than you are. And so it taught me a lot of lessons around confidence, believing in yourself, double checking, triple checking, quadruple checking your work, so on and so forth. And it's okay to be sort of the guy that's walking, in the opposite direction of everyone else. And that's very hard to do. And it's very hard to do, and it creates a lot of self-doubt and a lot of confidence issues. And if you have imposter syndrome, it's like multiplied by 10, right?
Yeah.
But that was a huge, in the end, it turned out to be a gigantic lesson for me. I mean, it really gave me so much conviction, and it gave me a lot of confidence as an investor, and it also gave me a lot of patience. It also gave me a lot of patience. I don't have to be one of these guys that is trying to, like, for example, NVIDIA, right?
Yeah.
Would I have been better off if I sold all my Tesla stock last year and bought NVIDIA? Of course, duh. That would have been, I would have been the happiest person alive. But I don't know NVIDIA as well as I do Tesla. So I personally can't do that. I just can't do that. I'd rather just keep studying the company, keep following the story closely, understand what the CEO is doing, understand what the folks that are working at the company are doing, understand the competition, understand the marketplace, what they're trying to sell into, the trends around the technology, viewing third-party analysis from different people, listen to the short side, listen to the bear side, try to test your thesis, so on and so forth. And so that's what I do. And kind of psychotic and maybe borderline like obsessive, but that's what interests me. So that's the route I'm taking, and it's worked before multiple times. We'll see if it works this time.
I think so. Not financial advice. Is Tesla your only investment in terms of
stock? Yes.
Of stocks? Yeah. And has that always been the case?
So for a very small period of time, I went from 100% Tesla to like 95% Tesla. Okay. I bought a little bit of Coinbase and I bought a little bit of Lemonade. And then, and then my dumbass sold them at the lows.
Okay.
And bought more Tesla.
At least you had more Tesla.
Yeah. I am not. I should not be followed for any investment or financial advice. But I'm more than happy to put my research, and that's what I do on my channel, right? This is the transparency that I'm talking about. Yeah. Like I'm very clear about not trying to give anybody financial investment advice, but I'm more than happy to share how I'm thinking about the company and the analytics, because I've been in the story for so long, right? So if I'm valuable in that way, great. And if people want to use me as a way to make fun of me when I'm wrong, if I'm wrong, great. That's okay too. It's a learning lesson for all of us if that becomes the case. I don't think that's going to be the case, but we'll see.
Exactly. So shifting gears a little bit now again. Tomorrow, Thursday, the 13th of June.
Nothing's happening.
Nothing. No, it's just a casual Thursday, guys.
Super boring.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're doing, Farzad. I'm not up to very much, to be
sleeping.
Honest, but, yeah, hopefully. But it's a very important day for the Tesla community. Now, by the time this podcast comes out, we would have already had the results. But I do still want to just quickly speak about it because, one, it's a very important event in Tesla's history. And two, for us right now in real time, this is happening for us tomorrow. So people watching, it's happened. You already know the outcome. But we'll just spend a couple of minutes speaking about what we're anticipating for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I guess first and foremost, I want to just say my opinion is that Elon's compensation plan should absolutely be reapproved. I think at this point, it's not even about whether you like him or not. A deal's a deal. It's a performance-based compensation plan that was approved back in 2018, and he should absolutely be paid for everything that he's done. I think it's just fair. Yeah. Now, I also think the move to Texas is a very necessary thing for Tesla, and I think it's extremely important. Now, I think, and I don't know if I'm being too optimistic here, I guess we'll hear from you in a minute. I think that we're going to have two good outcomes on those two fronts. Okay. I do think the compensation plan is going to be okay. And the move, I think, is going to be okay as well. I mean, I want to say it. This is just based on what I'm seeing. But like you said kind of earlier, we are in an ecosystem. We follow other accounts that are big on Tesla. We see a lot of information. I've seen two sides. I've seen a lot of big institutions and big retail investors go for the compensation plan, let's say, but I've also seen quite a lot of big institutions go against it.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're swaying more towards it being okay. But what's your take on that? And also, I want to find out, what do you think the reason is as to why some of these big institutions are voting against Elon's compensation plan?
Yeah, so I'll answer your second question. The why. I don't know why. I honestly don't know why. The only reason they would do that is because they think that it's adding too much to the float, and they don't want to like dilute shares.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like it's whatever. This is like, I just don't understand this, right? This is where,
Your face
like
right there,
I'm
Farzad,
like,
how I feel about it. There it
I
is.
just
I'm just
don't
like,
get it.
I don't either. I don't either.
Like, this was already approved in 2018, and just because a judge said the administrative steps you took to talk about the relationship between Elon and the board wasn't clear enough for investors, so you may have potentially misled them, when the plan was very much black and white. Number hit, money get. Number hit, money. It's like the simplest thing, and it fully aligns Elon's execution
And no one thought it would be
with
possible.
shareholders. Right, exactly. Yeah. And it was like viewed as like impossible, right? So okay. So just on that alone, I think it, like, just on that alone, it will pass, because I really do think most people, and again, this is where social media and the world that, like, what we do, can sometimes feel chaotic. It's because the fringes are the ones that get a lot of the voices, right? Like the very loud no's are going to get a big megaphone, and the very loud yeses are also going to get very big megaphones. But in the middle 80% or 65% or whatever that number is, they're just going to watch. And historically speaking, if you look at most things that have happened in history, outside of like very small instances, most people are very reasonable. And so the reasonable thing to do here, based on, number one, the thing already happening and him already hitting the goals that were outlined, which again, like, this crazy. So that's one thing. And then the second thing is that if you vote no, you are putting the company at risk of losing the greatest entrepreneur alive right now. It's like saying, the metaphor I use is like, okay, so imagine, do you watch basketball? Like, do you know anything about basketball?
Very limited.
Okay. What's your favorite sport? Do you watch any sports?
Soccer.
Football. Soccer? Okay. Okay, so David Beckham is British, so I'll use I'll use him as an example. Like, OG. It's like having David Beckham on your team when he was at his prime, and then being like, we should not renew the contract that we already gave you.
Yeah.
Like, we're just gonna yank your money. You played for us for 5 years, and nah, never mind. It's like doing that. It's like you're taking the okay, so like in basketball, it's like doing that to Jordan, to LeBron James, to all these other guys, right? So it makes no sense. So why would you put the company at risk? It's like, well, he's going to stay anyway because he has a big stake in that. It's like, okay, that may be the case, but check this out. The message that investors are sending the guy who's running the company, that is working for the investors.
The guy that's done so much for you already.
Exactly. Then the guy that has done that for you, when the people that are there will be like, nah, never mind. Do you think he's not going to have a sour taste in his mouth? How about everybody else, every other Tesla employee that for the last week has been coming out in support of the comp package for Elon, like Ashok and Tom Zhu and all these other executives, all these former employees? Like, you don't think they're going to feel a certain type of way that they're working for a company that the investor base doesn't appreciate their effort?
Yeah.
That there's no good outcome here if it's voted no. And those people that think that there won't be a bad, like this would be somehow be okay if it's voted no, I think are delusional, in my opinion.
I think if it goes to a no, regardless of personal opinion, I don't think it should. But if it does, I understand, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, I understand that there are other options that can be taken to get him his voting power, which ultimately this is more about that than the money. But even if that is the case, like you said, he's then got to sit and think, the majority of people that I've given such value to have voted against me. They don't want me to have this voting power. They don't think I deserve this compensation package that I've worked and I've achieved 4. So yeah, I think it would put a sour taste in his mouth for sure.
Like how could he not think the company that I'm working for, the investor base is captured? Like, how would that not go through his mind? Like, why on earth would I work with this company? You know, that's what I think any human would do, even if he's an alien, right? I think that is a legitimate human emotion that somebody would have, especially especially for work that has already been done.
I know.
This is not a new comp package, you guys. This is like this is like, and again, every which way that I try to process this, and trust me, I know you've tried, I know I've tried. I'm trying to run every simulation possible of how this thing could go, and every time I cannot see how a no vote is anything other than a political play, a brain dead play, or some sort of statement that you're trying to make on social media about how much you hate the CEO.
I've seen a lot of people. I've seen a lot of people say, a few people on X and on comments and stuff say that the reason that they voted no, the only reason they voted no, is because he's already got too much money.
Great. So then why are you investing in the company?
I know. It doesn't.
I don't understand that. I don't get it. It's like Stockholm syndrome. It's like reverse Stockholm syndrome. It's like you are putting yourself in that position. It makes no sense. Anyway, listen, maybe you and I are just the dumbest people alive, Hayley. I don't know.
We'll find out. We'll find out. It's happening tomorrow, and I'm trying to remain optimistic. I think I really want to see the right thing happen. I really do.
I think it will.
I think so as well. We both think, but we'll see tomorrow. So did you see, I'm sure you did, Tesla, I think, was it yesterday or was it today? I lose track of time. It was yesterday. They posted on their X account basically showing a rundown of everything that they've achieved. Right at the bottom there, the little golden nugget, I think you tweeted about it, I did as well.
Super sneaky.
It said, it didn't really stand out or anything, but it just said, deployed 2 Optimus bots performing tasks in the factory autonomously. Yeah. So what's your take on that? Does that fill you with a lot of excitement? Because to me, that is sooner than we anticipated, right? We were expecting them to be maybe doing some useful work at the end of this year and then into production, maybe 2025, was it? I could be slightly wrong on my dates there. But that seems quite soon for autonomous work to be being done. I don't think that the tasks are going to be anything crazy at this point.
Right.
I don't think that they're going to be doing anything that's going to be moving the needle economically speaking for Tesla. Yeah. But even so, to have now bots in the factories doing work autonomously, to me, that says efficiency is going up, cost of goods sold is being impacted. Like the knock-on effect down the line basically means when this proliferates, we now have 10 bots, we have 20 bots, we have 50 bots. What does that do to Tesla?
Right. 100%.
I think it's very exciting to hear this.
It's very exciting. I agree with you. It definitely came a little bit sooner than I expected. I would have thought they would have had them in the factory maybe like next year, end of next year, something like that. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is that factory settings, and like a company like Tesla is not just going to be a factory sort of manufacturing company. They also have a lot of supply chain. And so a lot of the tasks in that environment are very much, not all of them, but a lot of them, a significant percentage of them, like maybe single digit, but there's quite a few of them. It's just point A to point B movement of material. It's like something as simple as like pick thing up, put it down. Like when I worked on the supply chain side, when I was at Tesla, we were on the distribution side for service parts. And while I was there, we were doing North America, Europe, and a little bit of China for a little bit of time, and then that was taken over by the China team, and then the European team came in. But really, our goal was to just make it so that the parts go from the warehouses to the body shops and service centers for the entire Tesla network. And the way I thought about that whole process was how to make the flow of the material once it comes out of the truck to the truck that goes out. So the truck that goes into the truck that goes out. How can I make that piece travel as little distance as humanly possible so that I can get to the customer as quickly as possible? But that's just a series of like pick up, put down. Sometimes you use a big machine. Sometimes you use your hands. Sometimes you use a forklift. Sometimes you use a hand jack. There's a bunch of different ways to move that material. And so in the factory setting, you also have that a little bit. You have, moving materials from the dock doors to the factory line and so forth. Or, like on the one test they had, like moving the battery from the battery line
Oh,
to
yeah.
these little buckets or whatever. So I agree with you that the functions are going to be super limited, very inconsequential right now. They're not going to show up on the P&L at all, and they probably won't for a while. But I do think it speaks to like you've put it really well, like the path is now becoming real. We're starting at the first step, which is proof of concept, make sure it works in the factory on its own autonomously, right?
Yeah.
But then once you have that proof of concept, you're like, okay, so it works here. Why can't it work here? Okay, so if it works there, why can't it work there? And then you keep building and building and building and building. And then you have a flywheel. You have this thing, you have an exponential growth of bots in the factories. And then which ultimately leads to a manufacturing system sometime in the future, I don't know, 3, 5, 10 years down the road, whatever the timeline is, where you're optimizing it for the usage of humanoid robots and not humans. And so with that, you don't have to take into consideration safety, right? A huge part of factory settings, a lot of the considerations around safety. So a lot of square footage in a factory and a lot of like how you package a factory is with safety in mind, because you don't want people dying around crazy machinery, right? But when you don't have to worry about people dying because of human error, right? People die or get injured because of human error. So when you have a system that doesn't really have errors, then you can make that space a lot more efficient, a lot more dense, a lot faster. And then all of a sudden you go from, say, 1 unit a minute to maybe 5 units a minute with labor that costs a fraction of human labor in a much more tightly packed square foot area, right?
Yeah, I didn't think
and
of
that
it like
speaks
that.
for itself. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't actually think of what the result could be in terms of the actual factory layout and everything like that.
Right.
And then we've got to think, well, what's Tesla good at? They are incredible at scaling. So the fact that we're seeing, I know 2 right now, that is not going to stay at 2, especially when they start getting real use cases. And also we've got the information, I don't know when it came out, but that they're getting new hands on the Optimus. With the 22 degrees of freedom? A human hand is like
21, 22,
or
something like that.
Yeah. So, like, where does this go? And then I sit back and I think of the idea of bots making bots.
Yeah.
I can physically see, like, in my head, a bot on the manufacturing line making another bot, and it just proliferates. And suddenly we've got this world that looks completely different. And we can, you can go down a rabbit hole of whether that's scary or not, whether it's going to steal jobs or make jobs, all of these arguments. But it's going to look very different. And I think ARK Invest have just posted recently their new price targets, haven't they? And I don't even think they really added. I haven't actually had time to properly read it yet. You're shaking your head. They didn't really add.
They didn't add it.
In.
Nope.
Right.
It's just Robotaxi. Yeah, exactly. It's like it gets weird. It gets weird quickly. Yeah. Once you have the system of a humanoid robot that can actually do the tasks that we describe, which is, usable in most manufacturing settings, including the settings where it can build itself without any help, and it can just do it itself. Okay, it gets absolutely wild and crazy, I think, but here's a challenge for Tesla, right? And this is where, as a Tesla investor, this is where I temper my expectations. It goes back to the whole premise that because it's a novel problem and it requires novel solutions, by default, most people, almost everyone who's not a psycho like you or I, right, are going to think that this is
I've just
crazy.
Met you. You're calling me a psycho.
Sorry.
I can tell.
Very smart person like yourself. But you know what I'm saying, right? It's absolutely. It's people will not believe this until it happens.
Yeah.
Right. So what I think of is like back in 2012, 2013, when they proved EVs can be profitable, 2019, when they proved they can be consistently profitable at volume, right? It's going to be the same thing here with the bot. They need to prove that they can make these at scale, at a profit, but most importantly is that they're usable. It's not just this toy that people have, like the rabbit AI thing, like the little orange square thing, or these other, or the pin, the humane pin, like the thing that Marquez called the worst product ever or whatever it was. It can't be something like that. It has to be like you buy it, it comes to your house, it folds your laundry. It helps clean your house. It helps, get the laundry out of the thing for the baby and whatever. Maybe even helps me change a diaper or two or whatever. Brings a bottle. If it can do that, forget it. It's game over.
Yeah.
It's game over, because nobody else would have that capability. It's the moats are manufacturability, right? It's creating these things at scale, which is the same exact thing that's going to give Tesla, I believe, the advantage when it comes to having a robotaxi network, because of the approach they've taken to build a robotaxi network with vision only, and how easy it's going to be to scale because of the low costs and their scale prowess, like you discussed, right? That's one thing. And then the other thing is the software. It's the vision only, almost like this quasi AGI thing that they're working on, that again is low cost, but it's powered by this giant AI brain that they've built that requires tens of billions of dollars of capex, H100s and H200s and whatever they're going to be, like the Blackwells in the future. And that in Dojo, that's the moat for Tesla. And that seems extremely difficult to replicate, just like a profitable electric vehicle at scale is extremely difficult to replicate 10, 15 years later. It's like the story will repeat itself with a bot.
Yeah. And I think quite often we've seen Tesla almost front load the work for themselves for an easier future. Like a lot of companies will go about problems in a way that's what's the easiest, quickest way to get from point A to B, like now.
So true.
Whereas Tesla will be like, okay, well, we know it's this whole first principles thinking, isn't it? We know that we need to get to this point, and it's going to be harder to do it this way, but this makes the most logical sense for us then to scale later on, or whatever the solution is. But in terms of 100%. Optimus, I definitely see it in the factories. Tesla factories, I see it in other companies' factories. I do think there's going to be a point in time where they get rolled out to the general public at some point and they're in homes. And I think Elon said he even sees a world where there's like 2 to 10 per person, like a crazy ratio. I think I read this the other day. Yeah, anywhere between 2 and 10. Can you imagine a world like that where we just have the Optimus? But like, think about it. Don't take yourself away from Tesla and your interest. Like just real life now. That you turn up to your family's house and the door is just opened by an Optimus bot. Like, how do you see that?
So if robots can make themselves, and there isn't this apocalyptic scenario where only a few have access to that labor, right? Those robots. Yes. Why wouldn't that be the outcome?
No, I think it will as well. I'm just imagining that world because it feels so futuristic than what we have now.
Yeah, but it seems obvious.
It is the obvious part.
That's right. And that's kind of like where I'm going is like, that is the likeliest outcome. That's probably what's going to happen, because again, short of some sort of, and I think this is why like Elon freaks out anything, with everything OpenAI does. Like once they get like that Apple thing, he like loses it on X, He's like, oh my God, no, you're going to take, he loses it, but I think that's sort of like that's the crazy scenario is like, okay, so this is what's going to happen. We're going to have the ability to manufacture labor at will, and it will compound, and it will become cheaper and cheaper over time, to the point that the limiting factor is going to be how much energy we have to feed the system to build itself, right? Yes. That becomes like the thing. So it's like, if that's the thing, it's like, okay, cool. We're going to be surrounded by robots everywhere. I'm not going to have to do anything now that I'm doing today, right? Yeah. And then that kind of starts talking about your rabbit hole, which is, what does that mean? What does that mean? What, are we going to be Wall-E? You ever watch Wall-E, the movie?
I don't. Yeah. I've seen it a long time ago, but I think
like those, we're going to be these like super giant people on these like floating. We're going to have the VR headsets, which is going to be like this, like 24 hours a day, just drinking Diet Coke or regular Coke, and it's going to be 400 pounds. Like, could that be the future? I don't freaking know. That seems like a possible outcome.
Oh God, I hope not.
Yeah.
Well, so Robotaxi event is also coming up. So I've read a few different expectations that people are having. Gene Munster, the guy from Deep Water Management, whatever the company's called.
Yeah, he's great.
He's fantastic. I don't know if you've read his his expectations, but he's basically expecting that there could potentially be 3 vehicles announced during Robotaxi event. He's thinking the Robotaxi, then a mass affordable 25k on the same platform, however much that will be, and then he's also thinking that there will be, I don't know what it would be called, but some sort of like bigger vehicle that carries between 8 to 10 people, so like a van or something like that. What? I mean, I hope he's right. That would be so exciting, so exciting. But what are you expecting from this event? What do you think that you're gonna hear? Or what you hope?
I think. Yeah. What? So I think I put my prediction out a couple weeks ago, but I think so. What we'll definitely see. Okay, I shouldn't say definitely. What I expect to see is the Robotaxi network, and I think the Robotaxi network is going to be the app, the ecosystem, and how individuals will be able to manage their fleet and how Tesla's planning to manage their fleet, whatever that is. So we'll see that ecosystem. I think that's going to be the first thing they'll introduce, like introducing Robotaxi, the network that blah, blah, blah. However Elon does it in his very awkward, charming way go ahead.
Do you think there's a chance that Elon, this is just silly now, I imagine, but Elon just comes on stage, right? He's got his phone. Oh, you could probably hear the ice cream man outside. Can you hear that? That's the ice cream man.
Awesome.
Anyway, he comes on stage and he has his phone and he just presses the button on the app and you see it on the screen and the car comes in and he just gets in it and goes. Like, could that be a possibility? Because that would be crazy. That would be so cool.
I think that could totally be part of the presentation for sure. Like, why? I would say that's likely to be part of the presentation, honestly, to really showcase that they have the technology for it. But I think, so I think we'll see that. I definitely think we'll see the no steering wheel and pedal Cybercab, which I think is going to be the 2-seater that they that was teased in the Walter Isaacson biography. He had a whole chapter about it.
Yeah, I was about to ask you what that will look like. You think 2-seater?
Yeah. I think 2-seater. Yeah, I think, and there's been like these clues that Tesla has dropped. If you watch that one video they did where they were talking about re-upping Elon's comp package, they had these frames.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's, I could be wrong, but I would really, I think, put money towards, if there was a way to put money towards this, if FanDuel had a way for me to bet on this, I would do 2-seater with a screen there, really good sound system, no steering wheel and pedal. And then the optimization is going to be lowest cost per mile, period. Just the cheapest, the cheapest cost per mile. But then the luxuries you'll get with it, which I think is the differentiator here. People are not really thinking about this, I think, when it comes to like Robotaxi, is what are the biggest things that you get? You get privacy, you get safety, you get entertainment, you get comfort. And these things usually are very luxurious things that you get in a car, right? Like you pay extra money for these things. You need a chauffeur, you get a luxury car, you need to get an upgraded sound system. But Tesla's going to be like, I'm going to give you all of this, and it's going to be the cheapest cost per mile. So then the equation breaks, right? And I think that's the route they're going to go. So they'll have that, and then I think they'll probably show the cheaper like steering wheel and pedal version $25,000-$30,000 car. Yeah, but I don't know if it's going to be the same platform though. That's where I don't know if it's going to be the same platform. Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. It will be interesting to see what they come out with. Have you, I think the answer to this is yes. You own a Tesla, right? That's probably a silly question. Yeah, I don't, unfortunately. So I'm always like, want to know firsthand.
I recommend it.
Right. Okay. Done deal. But have you, what's your experience like with FSD? And how, like, when it's really good, you're really impressed, and it's come a long way. I keep saying in my videos, it's the iterations are now happening really quickly, and it's a vast improvement, and it's really getting there. And I say 100%. That based on the videos I'm watching, the research I'm doing, but I don't have the first-hand experience. So you can vouch for that.
Excellent, 100%. Yeah, I mean, and the data point that I have that really speaks to this is my wife has traditionally been hesitant to use the software. Now, anytime she gets in the car, she puts it on. She puts it on and uses it. And she just uses it. Yeah, she chooses because it's like, it drives great, and I don't have to worry about driving, and I feel safe in it, right? And this is somebody that's, she's not the most tech savvy person, let's say. She's not like I am when it comes to like how obsessive I am about this stuff. She's much more casual about it. And she's like, I love having this thing. I mean, it gets to the point where if we have to rent a car and we don't have FSD or even autopilot, it becomes like a chore.
Oh, like, you guys are getting lazy.
Yeah, 100%. Wall-E is inevitable. 100%. Yeah, and it's getting really, 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 really good for sure. There's still little spots, and this is where the software is transitioning away from having safety critical interventions towards more like preference interventions, which is more like, I wish it cleared the intersection a little bit faster. I wish it made this turn a little bit tighter. And I wouldn't have gone in this lane, right? But these aren't like, oh my God, the car's going to crash. It's like, no, like it's just driving differently than you would. It's just, and this is that dynamic doesn't doesn't get talked about enough when it comes to robotaxi and self-driving cars. The hurdle that Tesla has to jump through that is way more stringent than any other self-driving network is that in a Waymo, as an example, the rider has no option to influence the car. Yeah. Whereas in a Tesla car, you are responsible for the movement. So you're going to have this heightened level of anxiety and like wanting to get the car to do the right thing to where you're going to microanalyze every single decision. Versus if you didn't have that option, I bet you most people wouldn't do 95% of the interventions because they'd be like, oh, I'm not responsible. Let the car do whatever it wants. Like you don't tell your Uber driver, oh, can you take turns a little bit tighter? Yeah. You're like, okay, this Uber driver is driving this way, right? So, and I think that gets lost in the conversation, I think, with Tesla's progress because people might be like, oh, there's so many interventions. I'm like, but you have to understand if somebody's on their phone as a passenger and the car is driving you around, you're probably not going to notice almost all of them.
Like, yeah, you're right. Not all of them are about to end your life if you don't do something. They're just little things that are, like you said, preference. I'm really glad.
The point is, like, I can't even remember the last time we've had a situation where we had to intervene because we felt it was unsafe. Yeah.
That's good to hear. I'm glad you mentioned about the safety aspect of it because I've seen some people worry that moving towards autonomous driving and moving towards a robotaxi fleet is going to be very unsafe. And in my opinion, I think Tesla are pushing safety before convenience. Like this is safety first. And I've seen a lot of people say as well, would you really let your child drive in an autonomous vehicle, drive, quote unquote, be in an autonomous vehicle? Yeah. So we're going to get to the point where it's safer. 100%.
100%. Cool. Yeah. So, and if I can make this point real quick too, because this argument drives me nuts. It's like, are they going to be less safe? It's like, okay, check this out. In the United States, I know there's cars and roads in other countries as well. But in the United States, you have these things called intersections. And these intersections have traffic lights. And two of them on opposite sides are green sometimes. And then the other two on the perpendicular side are red, which means that there's cross traffic potentially in 55 to 65 mile an hour zones that if one person is not paying attention to that light, there is death. Yeah. Okay. And who's responsible for that? The guy that's paying attention. And that's a single point of failure. You're telling me that's safer than a self-driving car that's always going to be paying attention?
Yeah.
It's crazy. No, it's like the dumbest argument of all time. Of course, self-driving cars are safer. Of course.
Yeah, absolutely. And all we've seen, typical mass media, I realize we're on an hour mark. So if you really need to go, just let me know. I don't
I'll go for a few more minutes. Yeah, no problem. No
problem. What was I saying? Yeah, the typical mass media, all we get shown is the one or two incidences where these self-driving cars, not Tesla cars, just other companies working on autonomous driving, they're having errors. That's what we're seeing. But just like you were saying, literally not a few weeks ago, I was a passenger in a vehicle, so I was not really paying attention. I was looking around because I wasn't driving, and a car on the other side of the road, quite literally, I'm not even exaggerating this, driving along like this, no hands on steer. Like, I don't know what this individual was doing. I was thinking, I wanted to beep, scream, pay attention. Like there's kids around. Anyway.
That's called Texas.
Oh, is it? Okay.
That happens. Oh my God, it's crazy. Yeah. I feel like 45% of the drivers on the road are on their phone and the other 45% are drunk. It's the
Oh,
wild west out here. It really is. It's wow. Every single time I'm on the road, I see some crazy stuff happening. It's crazy.
that's
Yeah,
amazing. Not
super
good at it.
inattentive, like super inattentive drivers out here for sure.
It's awful. In the interest of time, do you mind if I do a quick fire round? I've got a few
Yeah,
more
let's do it.
questions for you. We can just do them really quick. Give me your quickest answer. I think some
Yeah,
of these
I'll
questions
try
the
my
audience
best.
want to hear, so I don't want to miss them. Okay,
Okay.
you've seen the Cybertruck, I believe, right?
Yeah, oh
What's
yeah.
it like in person?
Sick.
Really?
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it looks so for people that have only seen it in pictures, it looks
Mhm.
significantly better in person. And I
I've
I
heard it's
think
a
it's
lot
Tesla's
bigger.
best product. It I mean it depends. You know, it's definitely big. It's a
Mhm.
big vehicle, but it's the same size as an F-150. I think for someone like let's say for someone like you that lives in Europe, like in the
Yeah, we don't
UK,
have.
yeah, no, it's gonna look gigantic for you.
Uh-huh.
But here in Texas, it just looks like any other car.
Okay.
But it is a big vehicle. It's by far Tesla's biggest vehicle, but it looks great. It looks great, and then it drives so much on like a pickup truck. That's the most surprising thing. It's incredibly easy
Right.
to drive. I think it's their best product. I really do think
Okay.
so. Yeah,
You heard it here first, people. Okay, Elon's other companies. If you had to invest in one of them, which one are you picking and why?
Starlink.
Tesla's Starlink. Okay, why?
I think the long term potential for having the entire species connected to each other
Mhm.
with low cost internet that is absolutely everywhere, that is reliable, is not uh like it's so not understood at all. You know, because this is not just an Earth thing. This is a Mars thing.
Yeah.
You know, this is like a we're going to other planets baby thing, you know, and it's a
Mhm.
moat that SpaceX has, and the only reason why Starlink works is because they're leveraging SpaceX's reusable rocket technology. Without reusable rockets, you don't have Starlink, and SpaceX is the only company that can do reusable rockets, and that is a gigantic moat for telecommunications.
Mhm.
And think about the potential of having the entire Earth connected on the internet. Like, how many places on Earth have very low access or no access to internet? How
Yeah.
many millions or potentially billions of people are not online that Starlink is going to allow to come online? And what are the implications of that? I think Starlink is, and the reason why it would be a an investment thesis for me is because it's very obvious what the outcome is.
Yeah.
Like I almost want to say SpaceX, but SpaceX I still don't know how they're going to quite make money long term. It's
I
going
was
to be
expecting you to say SpaceX, I think, if I had to guess,
yeah.
but I
It's
like your
still
answer.
dubious for me. Yeah, but
Yeah.
Starlink is more clear for me, at least for the
Mhm.
next 5 years. But SpaceX could become more obvious.
Mhm. Makes
SpaceX is
sense.
needed. I just don't understand it from an investment thesis yet.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
cool for me to watch, but I don't understand all the engineering that goes behind that. I'm trying slowly to learn.
yeah.
But
It's so
okay,
sick. Yeah,
it is incredible. Two more questions.
yeah.
Do you think, based on everything that's just happened with Elon's rage towards Apple and OpenAI,
Mm,
do you think there could potentially be a phone, whether that's a Tesla phone, an X phone? You don't. You're ruling it out
no.
completely.
Yeah, I know,
Okay.
and I know Elon has mentioned it multiple times. Um, I mean, on like, I shouldn't say like 100% no. I'm gonna say like 90% no,
Well, it's
because
your
it is
thought.
interest. Yeah, it is interesting though, because he is very much in the communication space now. Starlink and
Yeah.
X are both very much a communication space, and I was very much on the boat of them not building a phone, but what they could do is they could just partner with a manufacturer that builds a phone and have it run the X
Samsung.
OS,
Yeah.
whatever that is, or Samsung or something. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I still don't think they will. I think that's something that Elon doesn't really want to get into. I think it's just, man, this is what happens. It's going to bring more attention on him from
And then,
governments, but
yeah.
it doesn't stop him. And I don't want that to be a variable that would stop anybody. It's like, okay, if the government's coming after you because you're having more influence and power, even though you're doing it for good, right?
Mhm.
Is that really a Elon problem, or is that a government problem? Right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching his real time tweets posts on X about what was going on, and I was like, "Oh God, it's all kicking off over
Yeah.
here."
Yeah. He's
Okay,
losing it again.
he was losing it again. Maybe it's the right thing that he was losing it about. I don't know. I guess it
Yeah.
depends how you feel about OpenAI, really.
I mean, there's so much bad blood between him and Sam. It's very
Yeah.
obvious. Even though he dropped the lawsuit, I just don't think he trusts Sam. Sam, you know, Sam, in my opinion, he's a brilliant entrepreneur. He's a brilliant mind, but he's
Mhm.
shady. There's some
I
shady
think that's
stuff
what
with
a lot
him,
of
in my
people
opinion.
think. Hmm.
Yeah, it's just he's kind of nebulous. It's kind of hard to tell what his intentions are. I think Elon, I think Elon is trying to shape that as well, obviously with his moves. But it's like you get fired from OpenAI, you get rehired, the
Yeah.
safety board is gone, then Andre and Ilya leave, your two top engineers,
Hmm.
and then you have all these rumors about like the safe, like no one cares about safety anymore. They've abandoned the mission. Then Scarlett Johansson comes out. She's like, "Well, what the hell's going on?" Then Elon sues
Yeah,
them.
that wasn't a
I
good
don't know.
look. Hmm.
No, it was not. It was not.
It
It was
really
very
wasn't.
cocky and just a very weird decision. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Right. Last question.
Okay.
Paint me a picture of what, just paint me a picture. That's it. Go and paint me a
Okay.
picture
1 second. Let me go on. Let me open up Paint.
of what you think Tesla's going to look like in, let's say, 10 years' time.
Oh my God.
I know that's a big question. I want to round off with something thought provoking for the audience.
I think they're going to be very close. Like the closest analogy is going to be like how Bell back in the day sort of owned communications, or
Hmm.
how the Rockefellers. If I hope I'm not getting this wrong. The railway system in the United States, right?
Uh-huh.
Like there's a singular parties, the singular groups that had a gigantic amount of influence a on the infrastructure of the company. Like when it was brand new, Um, I think Tesla's going to be very closely related to that. The one very dark one I like to use, because it sort of relates to labor, but it's a dark analogy, but I'll use it anyway.
Okay.
The Dutch East Indian Trading Company from back in the day, from the 1700s or whatever the time period it was, even before that, slave trade. What was their moat? It was they had the boats. They had all the boats that they were able to transfer labor from one place to another. And if you inflation adjust their market cap was like 11 trillion back in the day, right?
Whoa.
But that's because
Yeah.
they had a massive moat. They had a technology that was get things from point A to point B across the sea in high units. And that gave them an outsized market cap versus everybody else because they provided such a uniquely valuable service, as incredibly inhumane as it was. And it's shameful, but that's what it was. And so I think if you fast forward 10 years, you look at Tesla, what are their ambitions? They're trying to do that with labor, with the bot, right? They're not enslaving humans, but they are manufacturing labor through humanoid robots.
They're changing it
They're
as
going
we
to
know it today. Hmm.
exactly. The Robotaxi network. That's another one. So they're creating this moat around low cost transportation on their own app, right? On their
Yep.
own vertical. So they own that whole thing. Then they're going to have a gigantic supply chain for batteries.
Yep.
So energy storage, solar, right? Things like that. They're going to manufacture a ton of vehicles. It's like it becomes hard to ignore how fundamental they're going to be for the build out of, let's say, the infrastructure of the future when it comes to energy, transportation, and labor.
Yeah.
It we'll see how far along they're going to be on that path 10 years from now. And it's also highly dependent on them executing. Obviously, this is not they have to build these things, but the plan is there. They're clearly working towards it. And with enough time, they should reach something that resembles something incredibly huge, massive. They're going to have a lot of control over very fundamental aspects of living in a society with transportation, energy, and labor.
Yeah.
That's how I view Tesla long term.
Similar to me, I see an even bigger ecosystem than where we are today with Tesla, whereby they're dominating and they're leading in lots of different areas. Exactly what you've explained there. But
Yep.
with that said, Farzad, it's been an honor. Thank you so much for coming on. Honestly, it means a lot. It means a lot that someone like you would come onto a smaller channel like mine, and it's been very interesting to see in real time how your brain works, how your brain thinks about different Tesla problems and where we're going for the future. But yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well,
and
yeah,
I was just going to say, if anyone hasn't come across Farzad, which I'm sure you have, I'll leave obviously all of his links in the description. Go and follow him. Go and subscribe to his channel. But it's been amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much. No, I really appreciate you having me on, and awesome conversation. I love talking about this stuff. Like and subscribe to Hayley right now. Right now. I will come to your house and break your door open if you don't like and subscribe right now. Just kidding. But no, it was an awesome conversation. Loved your questions. Yeah, you do great work, and we'll make sure to have you on my channel soon, because we should keep talking about this stuff. Yeah, of course.
Cool. Thank you so much, and thank you everyone for watching. Bye bye.
Bye everybody.